Hello people, and welcome to this video. In this one we're going to go through the Uppercase converter JavaFX MVVM exercise that we are going to have you start out with when you learn about the MVVM in JavaFX. This is basically our hello world example. It is the simplest exercise or example we could come up with that could follow our JavaFX MVVM architecture. I'm going to go through it in this video, so it's a walkthrough. I'm going to talk along the way, and it's probably going to be very long, but we'll see about that. So the purpose is that we are going to have a view where you can insert something, and you click submit, and then it's returned to you with uppercase, all uppercase here. The structure is going to look like this. Hopefully your familiar MVVM template. We have the class to run the entire app. We have the JavaFX application class that starts the app. We have our view handler responsible for managing and changing views. We have the view model factory, which creates view model factories. We have the model factory, which create model factories. So this is sort of the core. I usually call it the core packages, because these are always here and they always name the same thing and they have similar methods. And then we have the specific functionality parts over here. In this case we have an XML file to define the view. We have the GUI, more like it. We have the uppercase view controller class, and together with the XML file, these two classes or files make up the view in MVVM. We have the view model responsible for making requests to the model and responsible for holding the data in the view. And then the model down here, which is responsible for the logic and computations and whatever we need. In our case, it's just one method to change something to uppercase. So it's an extremely simple program, even though we have a bunch of classes involved, and the result is just that I can insert some text, click a button, and get that text made to uppercase. So it seems a bit elaborate, but the point is to make the structure, put that in place, and then expand upon it. In the second exercise, I'll go through that as well. We put in another view so we can see how to change views. But that's a bit later. Alright, when we attack this exercise, in the description given, we have a couple of, that's just an overview of what each of the classes is supposed to do, but no real guidance as to where to start and what to do about each class. You can see in the exercise provided here, I have an example solution for you on GitHub. There was also a tutorial, which is a PowerPoint to go through everything. And now I'm making this video to take you through as well, to provide further explanation and my thought process. So the point is, where do we start? And you have sort of two approaches, two and a half perhaps. You can use a bottom-up approach or a top-down approach, and it's a matter of preference, I guess. With the bottom-up, you start, basically you go against the dependency or association arrows, meaning we would start with the text converter model, because this one doesn't depend on anything. So if I make this and complete it, I can just park that somewhere, put it away, and then I can start with one of the other classes that has only arrows pointing to the model. So either the view model or the model factory. If I make these two, they don't have any dependencies on something that does not yet exist because I have made this. Then I can make these two as well and put them away. So I can sort of construct my program going against the arrows, and the benefit is that I can sort of finish one thing at a time, and that's going to be completely finished. And sometimes that's nice. Personally, I often prefer a top-down approach because then we follow the activation of the program, you might say. So the user is going to click a button. Okay, so the first thing we need is a button up here. Then the user needs something to happen when that button is clicked. Okay, so we need a class, and I can just print out on submit button or on enter button. I don't need two methods here. That's probably a mistake in the UML diagram. Right, so I can print something out here and see, okay, if I click the button up here, it's connected down here, and we print something out. The next step would then be to add the view model and see that something can be printed out here when I click a button, and then the model, and print out something, and then we can print out stuff going with the returns going back up again. So I can follow a sequence diagram, you might say, and for each step, first the UI, then the controller, then the view model, I can print something out to verify that each step is working along the way, and then back up again. We can verify that we get the correct result down here converted to the correct result. We can print out the correct result up here, and we can see that it's updated in view. So that's sort of a top-down approach. It does require you to modify code, because initially I will, when I have made the controller and verify that it's working as much as it can, then I need to include this. And when this is done, I have to modify the controller. So each step we sort of have to go back and modify something to make sure that we are now calling the next class along the way. So it is a bit more going back and forth, but it's easy to verify every step along the way in the chain of calls here and the chain of returns that everything is working as expected. And when your system grows later in the semester and you are going to put more classes even further below, then I think this is very convenient way to do things, because you can verify along the way. So this is actually sort of a very lightweight, loose, lazy, test-driven development like approach. Sort of, we verify along the way just enough that it's working. So I think I'm going to do the top-down approach, and I'm going to be very tedious about verifying every step of the way so you can see what's going on. There is the third approach, because the 2.5 ways, it's sort of the same idea, but in later exercises you're going to have a separate thread over here that will modify something in the model, and that data will then be pushed to the view model and updated in view. So here the activation of the system goes the other way. With the user, they click a button, the activation goes down and then back up again. With the thread, the activation happens down here and it goes up. So in that case, I would probably start with the thread and then use a bottom-up approach, because we can print something out here, and then we can print it out here when it's being pushed up here, and then print out on the view if we need to. So follow the activation. Okay, long introduction. Let's open IntelliJ and get started. So where do we start? Well, I need to be able to run the app, so we'll start over here, then this one, and then we will move to this one, which will initialize this one and open it. So we sort of start with the top layer, and then once that is working, we will put on the view model layer, and then the bottle layer. That's the idea. So I'm going to take this away. We have IntelliJ open. I'm going to start a new project. Java, some version, all is good. I don't need a template, and I need to call it something. MVVM Uppercase walkthrough. Wonderful. It is just initializing. So okay. So I'm going to need some packages first. Right, maybe I can just, oh, what's that? Nope. Package structure first. I'm going to need a core package. Let's call it core. And I'm going to need a alt insert here. Another package. Nope. what is that? Save, delete, wonderful. Another package, and I will call it view. Good. Alright, so I have my two packages, and I just downloaded the program, so you can see down here on the right hand corner what my keystrokes are, so you can see whenever I make a shortcut of any kind, for example Alt Insert here to get up this menu, then you can follow along, and I don't have to say it out loud. So whenever I'm doing something that generates something and it's not entirely clear what I'm doing, hopefully that should be displayed down in the right hand corner. Good stuff. Okay, I have my two packages, core, view, that's where we're going to start. I might as well create the model also. So I could right click here and new package, or Alt Insert to create a package, and I'll just call this model. I need a main method. Let's start there. Main method. That requires a class. We will call it run Uppercase App. And maybe I can make this a little bit smaller. Hang on. Okay, that's probably good enough. Good. Main method. Bit slow, here we go. And let's just be tedious. So let's try and run this. Just to make sure everything is working. We get it printed out. Okay. Now the next step is to have this Uppercase app. So let's make that. And that one needs to inherit from the application of JavaFX. So extends application. And I don't have any JavaFX attached to this project yet. So let's go and say project settings. I should be able to find that somewhere here. No. Build module. Okay, then we go up here in file, project structure, and modules. So I want to add JavaFX to this module here. And I have the module selected and click, and I want a library, and I have my JavaFX as a global library, so that's already present for me here. Okay, let's try again. Extends application. And what is it? Import. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Yes, and that requires me to override the start method. So just to figure out which method we are in, maybe Uppercase App in the start method. Let's go back here, and then we want to launch the application. Application is not very good at suggesting dot launch, and we want to launch the Uppercase App dot class. There we go. Let's try and run this again, and we get to the start method over here. Good start in the start method. Okay, then we want to get to our scene handler, view handler. That's going in here. View handler. We need a private scene. So that's going to be named Uppercase scene. I need to import this. Import class from JavaFX. Yeah. we need a constructor. I'll just create one of those, and no arguments for now. We will have to add this later on. I need a start method, public void start, to be called when we want to actually start the program. Some people do it in the constructor, so when you call the constructor, that opens all kinds of stuff, but I like to have a separate start method. This constructor is just to set whatever variables we need to set or initialize, and then we have a separate start method. So the start method is supposed to load a view and open that. So let's just make an open to uppercase private. That's probably going to need to be public void open uppercase view, like that. And whenever we start the program, we want to open the uppercase view initially. So let's just see how far we've gotten. We are in the view handler open uppercase view, and then I want to remove this one here. Right, so the main method is supposed to initialize this one, and that one, the Uppercase App start method here, is going to open up the view handler. So we're going to create a new view handler, and we're going to say view handler.start. Now my app is running, and it's actually still running. So whenever you start a JavaFX application, that is going to run until you terminate it. It's going to start a new thread, a JavaFX thread, and that is running even though it looks like you're not really doing anything. I just printed something out, but apparently it doesn't terminate by itself. So let's run this and see that we get to the view handler here and print out this. So the next step is to make this actually open a view. And the scene, the view handler is supposed to open a view over here. So for that I need the fxml file, and I need an uppercase view controller. So let's go here and say fxml file uppercase view.fxml, maybe without, it's probably automatically appended .fxml, and it's pretty basic, and it suggests that the controller for this fxml file is by default called the same thing, but we want to append controller to the end here. There are some behind the scenes stuff going on that sometimes require us to have this suffix here of controller, so it's a good idea to just have that. Okay, so it's red because it cannot find the class. I will just alt enter to create a new class, and then we have the uppercase view controller in place. And this one here is no longer complaining. So now we can start where do we start? Do I want to define the view first, what it looks like, or do we just want to go back here? Okay, this one, we'll take it one tiny step at a time. The uppercase view controller is going to have an init method. We cannot have constructors in the controller classes because they are constructed by the JavaFX framework. So instead we need our own constructor kind of thing, and that's the init method. So we go public void init. It's going to get a view handler, and let's just import that. And then the view model, we'll ignore that for now because I don't have it. I can alt enter this to create a field for it. Right, so now I have a field variable of type view handler. And let's just print out something here. This is the furthest we are going to get for now. So uppercase view controller init. Okay. So my view is super boring. There's nothing in it. Right, it's just an anchor pane with a size, but that's okay for now. I want to be able to show that view once we start the app. So in the view handler, instead of just printing out that we get to this point, we want to actually open the view. And we need the FX loader for this, and I can never remember what that looks like, so I'm just going to steal that piece of code from somewhere else. So let's see. Okay, so I need an fxml loader to load the fxml file and construct the view based on what the fxml looks like. New fxml loader, there we go. We need to set which file to load, so that's which fxml file should it load, and we set the location, set location to some URL. Apparently we have to do it like this: get class.get resource. This will apparently load a reference a file, I guess, and create a URL out of that. Actually, not entirely sure what this does. The class will get you this class instead of an instance. The runtime class of this object. Okay, and here we can find a resource. So I need to point to this one. Currently we are located in the view handler. So to navigate to this one, to this path of the Uppercase view, I need to go up one folder. So we go out to the source folder and then into the view folder or package, and then to this one. So up one folder is ... We go into the view and we say Uppercase view.fxml. That's supposed to find this file. Once it's loaded, we say parent root loader.load, and this one can cause a problem. So you see that it's complaining because if you cannot find this file, it will throw an exception, and I just want to be thorough here. We just do it like this, surround everything with the try catch. Right, so there's an IO exception if we cannot find this file when we try to load it. The parent here is basically an anchor pane. All the elements of JavaFX is a subclass of parent, one way or the other. So anchor pane in JavaFX, if we look up the information, we can see that it extends a pane, and the pane extends a region, and the region extends a parent. So whatever I get out of the fxml file, I can always define that to be a parent, and the parent is something we can put into a scene. So I think you heard about the scene graph in SDJ1, and this is the top of the scene graph, the one element that contains everything else. So this here is essentially the view constructed based on the fxml file. Then we need to get the controller. That's also loaded and instantiated because it's referenced in here, fxml controller. So we say loader get controller, and it is going to be an Uppercase view controller, like that. And on the controller we want to initialize it with this being a reference to the view handler, this instance of the view handler. All right. That's a good start. Then we want to actually open a stage, a new window with this. And for that I need a stage. Every stage you create will create a new JavaFX window. So if you have multiple stages, you're going to have multiple windows. Usually we just want one window and separate, change the content of that window. So that means we swap out scenes. In this case, we say uppercase scene is equal to new scene, and it takes some element here, some JavaFX component with the root, and then we say stage set scene with the scene, uppercase scene. Okay, so we take the scene which holds my GUI stuff, we put it into the stage, and we say stage.show. Before we do that, we can say stage set title. Okay, my stage is gray up here, so it's never initialized, and a good place to do that is probably in the view handler. Constructor here. So I have my stage. We load the fxml file, meaning the loader will go through this file here, parse it, and figure out what kind of view does it need to construct. That gives me a parent that contains the entire view or GUI. Then we load the controller here. We get the controller that is created for us. We initialize it. We take the GUI stuff and put into a scene. We take the scene and put into a stage, and then we show the stage. And let's see if something pops up when I run this. I should also get something printed out from the init here. So let's run it again. I get a very boring stage, nothing in it, it's just my anchor pane, and we get printed out from the init. Alright, let's close this. So I have the main method to start the app. The app starts the view handler, and the view handler opens the view and the uppercase controller here. Now I just need to define the view and put my buttons in so we can have some kind of functionality. So let's open this here in Scene Builder. I need to put in a text field. I have two of them. I don't know what the difference is. Doesn't matter. How do I want to do this? Do I just want to put them in here? We don't care about the structure of this. That's okay. I need a label. So we'll say input. So I'm going to type something in here, and we need other label, and the output is here, and I need to, can I copy paste that? I could. We'll just put that down here. It's going to be a beautiful, beautiful view. I need a button, and the text here is going to be convert. Okay. That's probably it for now. This one here, I need to be able to get a reference to this text field in the program. So I'm going to go to the code, and I need to give it an ID, and we say input field. Okay. And there's a warning up here. We'll get back to that. This one here needs an output field ID, so we can reference that. Okay. Let me just save. And my button needs an on action. I don't need a reference to the button, but I need to call a method when the button is clicked. So we say on convert button. Okay, so that's how we tie together the fxml file and the controller class. We need IDs and we need on actions. And I need to make this so that it cannot be edited in the exercise. The screenshot, you can see that it's grayed out, so we can put something. I cannot type anything in, so it's enabled or disabled. Or, then there should probably be some kind of editable. Perhaps. Let's see what happens. IntelliJ, back to IntelliJ. Okay, we can see the fxml file here is modified a bit. We have a few things to pay attention to. This one here, the input field, it's yellow, highlighted in yellow, and that means that it cannot find the piece of code that this should be referenced in. If I Alt-Enter, create a field, you can see that it will go to my controller class and create a text field. So now I have a reference to that text field, input field. And here, I just Alt-Enter again. Now I have reference to the output field. And finally, we need to say the button here. When we click that, which method should we call? We go here. I don't actually need any action events, so I can just delete those like that. Okay, so when I run the program again, I should have my input and output fields in the button, and we'll remove this one, put it down here on convert button, so that we can see that my button clicks are registered here. Let's run it again. No. I was fairly certain it was control rerun. And if I go here, control shift 10. So from here I can press control shift 10 to run it, okay. But otherwise it's control 5 to rerun something. Error. Components are missing and are required to run this application. That's an interesting idea. Let's figure out what that means. Okay, it's because when we have a JavaFX application, the class that extends application also has a run button here, and we need to set up some extra stuff if I want to be able to run it from here. But if I go to the main method, I can actually run this. Right, so that's why we have a separate main method. Otherwise, you need to set up some run arguments, and that's complicated. So I was just commenting out stuff to figure out where we broke things. So let's run it again. Okay, this one here, I cannot put anything in it, so that's not editable. I can put something in here, I can click convert, nothing happens, but I do get to the method here. So we are off to a very good start. I have my class to run the app, which starts the view handler, and the view handler loads the fxml and puts the controller together, and I can click a button. So we have the top layer mostly in place. The next part is that we want to be able to, send, well, something should happen in the view model. When I click the button, we should take that information from the input field and do something with that. So we need a view model, and we need to tie that together with the view controller. And in order to create the view model, we need the view model factory. So let's go to the core and create a new class, view model factory. This one is going to create a well, we need a public, and it's going to return an uppercase view model. View model. Obviously it's complaining because I don't have this class. Uppercase. I probably need to be consistent with the uppercase of the C. Uppercase VM, and we return a new uppercase view model like that. And now I just need to create the class so it's not complaining. I will put it in the view here. I need to import it, and I see that I made a mistake because I have a view with an uppercase package here, and later I'm going to have a different other package, a log package. So I'll just create the uppercase package and put the stuff in its correct place. Uppercase, there we go. And I will take these three and put in here. Refactor, yes. So now everything is in here. And that means my view handler, I need to say uppercase like that. Right, I need to navigate into the uppercase folder / package. Okay. My view model factory can now create an uppercase view model. In this case, I'm just returning a new one every time. In some examples, you will see that we store it in a field variable and return the same one. But if I want to reuse the view model, I should also reuse the view controller. And currently, I'm just creating a new controller every time. So, do we want to reuse the view here? We could do that. So the uppercase scene. Well, I'm not changing anything back and forth. We're not changing any views or GUIs, so we'll just leave it like this for now, and then we will come back and modify it. Okay, my view model factory creates a view model. Good. So we need to tie this association together and this dependency. So the view model factory is created in the Uppercase app here. View model factory, create a new one. We need to pass it here as an argument to the view handler. It will obviously complain, and we can quick fix that by adding the view model factory as a first parameter to the constructor. And the constructor now takes the view model factory. I want to assign that to a new field variable, like that. So we get the view model factory, we assign it to a field variable. All right. When we initialize the controller, we need to pass it a view model. So we can say here, view model factory, get uppercase view model. Again, it will complain because the init method doesn't have that argument. So we will just quick fix it and say add as a second argument, like that. Again, I need to assign this to a field variable, like that. Okay. So now I have tied things together. The view handler knows about a view model factory here. And whenever we initialize the controller, we can give it an uppercase view model from the factory. So this is just one approach. As I mentioned, we could reuse the scene, so I could have a if around this to see if the scene has been opened and initialized before, and then I can just reuse it instead of reloading it. In some examples, you will see that I have one method to open all kinds of views. In this example, we're going to have a method per view we want to open. Sometimes the controller implements an interface, or sometimes I just do it like this. So there are different approaches, and the different examples and exercises you will see, and also on my GitHub, uses different approaches. We're just going to do the straightforward one, but as I work with JavaFX MVVM, I sometimes discover new ways to do things, and sometimes I try it out and figure out it's a good idea, and sometimes it's just an alternative approach. So there are many different ways, but they all follow the same intention, with the view handler being responsible for creating views and managing them and so on. The views and the controllers can just be initialized in slightly different ways. Sometimes we can save some code by being clever. Not this time around though, we'll be straightforward. Okay, we need to tie these two things together. So whenever I click a button up here, I want to print out whatever is input in the input field down here, and that means first thing we need to, in the Uppercase view controller here, we need to say Uppercase view model, and I want to call the convert method. You'll see that it takes no arguments because the responsibility of the view model is to know about all the data that is present in the controller. That data is, for example, whatever is in the input field. So I need a convert method. I'll just create that like that, and let's print out here. We are in the Uppercase view model convert method, just to do that test thing again. So if I click the button, we should now see that we hit the convert method. Convert, wonderful. Now we also want to print out whatever is in the input field. So that means we need to tie them together or bind them together. We use data binding, and for that we use the string properties, or any kind of property. There is a property for every symbol type and also strings, and you have object properties, and you can bind them together in very complicated ways or clever ways. So let's go to the Uppercase view model and create a string property. So the idea of those properties is that if you bind a property of the view model together with a property of the controller, when one changes, then the other also changes. If I input something in the text field, that changes the property in the controller, and because they're bound together, that will also update the property in the view model, so the view model will have the exact same data. We want to create a string property, and let's say input property, and then just initialize it here. I could do it in the constructor, but I can also just do it here. Then I need a get method to actually access this. You can see there's a what we have called request property. Maybe I'll just rename that to follow the UML diagram. Request property, and we need a get method. So there is a convention apparently in JavaFX that it's not called get request property. If we have that method, it will get the value of the string property. You can see if I generate a getter for this one, it will actually create two. It will create a get request property which will get the value, whatever string is currently held in the request property, and the other one here will return the string property. So value and property, and apparently it should not be called request property but just request, but it's not that important. Okay, I can access my request property. I need to bind them together, the data binding. So when I insert something in the text input field, it's being kept down here. We do that in the controller. We say input field, almost input field dot string get string text property, perhaps. Here we go, text property. We want to bind. Well, is it just a one way or two way? I just want to bind two ways. So whenever I update it in the GUI, it's being pushed to the view model, and if I update in the view model, for example, if I want to clear the text field, then it's updated in the GUI. We say Uppercase VM dot request property. So that's how we bind the two properties together. Now, whenever I insert something in the input field, the request property down here will be updated. I can see it's actually just called request. So once again, let's follow the UML diagram and rename this to request. Okay. Now when we print this out, we can also print out the value request.get. That should print out the value of whatever is in the input field. Input, hello, viewers, convert, and you can see that my string property here, the request, actually knows hello viewers was inserted into the text field because of this data binding here. Maybe I want to clear it again. So we say request.set, and I just set an empty string. If I rerun this, we can see that if I update something from the view model, viewers, I click the convert, I'm going to set the to empty text, and it will be cleared out here. Then the intention is in the end to have it updated down here with an uppercase. So status report, we have the first layer to start everything, the view handler, the controller, and my controller is probably not entirely done. We're still working our way towards the downward path here, so we can forward data all the way down. At some point it's going to get all the way back up again, so we'll have to modify the controller a little bit at a later time. Okay, we're in the uppercase view model. We want to pass the, whenever I click the convert, we want to pass that to the model. So we need a model factory, and that's going to create a text converter model. So let's just start with the text converter model. We need an interface. We like to hide the model behind an interface converter. Later on we might want to swap out the model. You will also hear about solid design principles at some point, which suggests this is a good idea. Text converter interface. We need it returns a string to uppercase. String, it takes a text like that. So that's my interface. Let's create the implementation class text converter model. It implements the interface text converter. That means I have to implement the methods from the interface. Here we go. And we need to take the text and to uppercase. That's actually a method for that. Local root, I don't know, we'll just take the simple one. And that's essentially my model. This is the logic we have in our program for now. Not all that exciting, but as I said, it's a simple example. So we have the model in place. We need the model factory and tie that together with the view model factory, and it needs to be created over here and so on. So first create the model factory, goes into the core model factory. This time around I'm actually going to want to reuse the model text converter, the interface text converter. We'll need to reuse the model for later purposes. Often the models are reused if they hold any field variables, any data in them, and we're going to do that for the second exercise. So we need a method to get it, public text converter. You can see that again I'm working with the interface instead of the implementation here. Get text converter, let's just call it model. If the text converter is null, meaning we haven't requested it before, so it's not initialized, we'll initialize it, new, and then we will return it. That means the second time we request it, it is no longer null because we have stored it up here, and we will just return the same instance. So I'm only having one instance created of the text converter. So it's only created the first time we request it. On consecutive times, we're going to get the same instance here. And that means multiple view models can share the same instance of a model, which we're going to need later on in the second exercise. Okay, so I have the model factory. We need to actually create it here, not here, in the app. Okay, model factory, mf, new model factory. We need to pass it to the view model factory because we have the association here, and the view model factory needs to create view models, and the view models needs to know about the models, so we need the model factory here. Create constructor. That's good. We'll create a field variable like that, and we want to pass the model, the text converter model, to my Uppercase view model. It's done down here. We say mf.get text converter model, and that means I need a constructor for this. Yeah, and we want to assign it as a field variable. Create field. Yes. So now my Uppercase view model knows about the model. It has a reference to a text converter, as you can see here. Okay, everything is tied together. The app creates my view handler, my view model factory, and my model factory. They know about each other. These associations are in place. The model factory creates my model, and now my Uppercase view model also knows about the model. So we have all the classes and all the relationships in place, more or less. Let's make a call to the Uppercase here. Convert, we say text converter model to Uppercase. I want to take the request.get value here, and that returns to me a string. Let's call it Uppercase text. Okay. And let's just print out. Let's say we are in the Uppercase view model convert method, and we are getting a Uppercase text back again. So I click a button in the GUI, it calls a method in the controller, which calls a method in the view model, which calls a method in the model, which returns a value to the view model, and that's how far we have gotten. So we're printing out here to see that we get the path all the way down, and now we are working our way back up again with the result. So I should get the result out here if I update it. Run it again and let's see. Hello viewers, convert, and I'm actually getting that result back from the model here. What do I want to do with that result? Well, I want to put it in the output. Okay, so I need a string property for the output, and that's going to be bound together with the reply field. Mine are called input field and output field, but reply field. That's an error label. We'll fix that later on. That's used if you try to convert something but there's nothing here, then we need to show an error. So we'll do that afterwards. Okay, we want to get the result put in here. So I'm going to need another string property. Instead of request, we call it reply. And here, instead of printing it out, we put it in the reply set value. What's the difference? This seems to be on the writable object, and this here is on the string property. So I should probably set value. That seems to be the one used for the string property. That means up here we can see that this is from the observable, so that's from a superclass. But here if we say get value, this one is defined on this string expression. Get value and set value, those seems to be the ones associated with the string property. If we set a value, uppercase the text. There we go. So I'm updating a property in the view model. We need to bind that together with the field in the controller. So let's go to the Uppercase view controller. here the output field, we want to say text property, bind bidirectional from the Uppercase view model, and I actually need a reply property method. I don't have that yet, forgot to make it, but we can just make it here. Create a method in the view model, and it returns a string property, the reply. Okay, and that's bound together in the controller here, so I should get my result all the way back to the GUI. Hello viewers, convert, and we get it back here. Still cannot edit anything. Okay, so that seems to be working as intended. Let's fix the error label. So that means if I'm trying to convert something that's not there, either empty string or null, then I want to update a label saying that's a no-go. Alright, let's go back to this one here. I have it still open. I just want to reload it in case I change something. Do not save. Okay. Sometimes if we change something in the fxml file, it might not be updated in the scene builder, and then I'm working on an older version in the scene builder, so we'll do it like this. Label, I put it wherever, yeah, that's a good label, and I'll just make it long, and again we need to give it an ID code, error label, and I want the initial text to be nothing, so it's not shown initially, like that. Okay, that gives me a new error label. It's highlighted in yellow again because it's not associated with a field in the controller. In my controller, I have the input and output fields, but I don't have an error label. So I'll just go here and alt enter on it, create field. There we go. The error label needs to be tied together with a property in the view model, so that we can update the error label in case something goes wrong. So let's create that in the view model. Here it's also a string property, error. I need a get method for that, string property, error property, return error. Okay, so convert, well, if the request dot, let's just do this here, I will make that into a local variable, request value, and then we check it. If the request value is null or equal to an empty string, request value, then we don't want to proceed. We instead say error label, error property, this one here, set value, input field cannot be empty, and then we don't want to do the next part here, so we say return. Okay, this is a concept called defensive programming, I believe. We check for initial potential errors. If we find something that's wrong, incorrect, then we return, so we don't actually proceed to the actual, part of the code that does something. If we pass this check, everything is good, we do the conversion, we set that and move on, and then we also want to say error, set value to empty string, because that means everything is okay, so I can just remove my error message. We need to bind it to the controller. Again here we say error label text property bind. I can only bind a label one way. I cannot insert something in the label from the user's point of view. it can only be updated from the view model. So in this case, it's bind uppercase error property. We run it again. If I press the convert, input field cannot be empty. Hello viewers, and it's cleared out. And this is cleared, and we get the result back. And that should be the end of the first exercise. Okay, there we go. I was just logged out, indicating the video is taking a long time. So I have my GUI. It looks slightly different, but that doesn't matter. And we have fulfilled all the requirements. I believe we have each of the classes and they can do stuff. So first exercise is done. In the second exercise, we're going to have two views. Let's open this one and let's open the class diagram. We'll just make it bigger. There we go, even bigger. So this one is from before. And now we need to have a log. So whenever I make a request, that's going to be put in a list, and the log here is going to show all the requests that we have made. So you can see they use the same, they both use the converter model, and whenever this one does something, that's being stored in the model, and this one can then get that. So they are going to use the same instance. If I use two different instances, one will put stuff in its own model. This one would request from its own model, but there's nothing here because that's being put over here. So we need to share that instance. And we need the functionality to be able to swap between two views. So where do we start? Well, we start at the top again so that we can open a different view and just go back and forth between those two. Yes, I think that's a good start. Okay, so I'll need to create this one. That requires a new package, view. We call it log. I'll just close all of this stuff. Here I'm going to need a new XML file. We call it log view. And I need a log view controller. Doesn't find it. If I alt enter, it will create the controller for me in the same package. I thought. That's because I'm still modifying the name. There we go. You see that okay, I cannot redo that. Never mind. But there was this box around it indicating that I was updating the name. I had to finish that before I could quick fix it. Okay, we have the controller. It's going to need an init method. We'll just start without the view model like before. Public void init. It takes a view handler. Yeah, I want to import that view handler. And let's assign it to a field. Save delete. No, I won't create a field. Okay. Good. Let us make a simple view first, just so that I can go back and forth. I don't want any table in it, do I? Maybe not. I just want a button. I put it all the way down in the bottom here, and this one would just say back. So this is supposed to switch back to the previous view, to the view that we have already. I need to call something on back button. That's the name of the method I want to call. Did that work? Yep. And that's enough for now. I need to modify the other one so that I can go to the log. We will open this. I also need a button here. Just put it wherever. And this one is called log. And I need a method here on log button. Okay. So when I press this button, I want to open the other view. And when I press the back button on the other view, I want to go to this one. So let's just set that functionality up so I can switch back and forth. So what do we need? First, the view. So I have this one here. It doesn't call anything currently. It doesn't find the correct method. So let's just start by creating that. That's in the Uppercase view. And I'll delete this one. Okay. Uppercase view controller on log button. That's enough for now. Eventually we're going to tell the view handler to open the other view. We'll do the same thing over here. It's going to complain about the on back button. And we'll just say log view controller on back button. Doesn't do anything yet. So in the view handler, I'm going to need a method to open the log view. You can see open log view. Let's find that. Open here. Public void open log view. It's going to be pretty similar to the other one up here. So I'll just we'll steal parts one at a time. I need to surround everything with a try catch. Okay. So instead of opening the Uppercase view, I want to open the log into the log folder here, log folder, and then we want to open the log view, and we are getting the root again, my anchor pane. Then we say it's a log view controller. I'm getting out of the loader. Get controller. Yeah. We say controller.init with this again. And then we say private scene log scene. So I don't really need these as field variables because I'm resetting them every time, but I think at the end we're going to change it so we are just reusing previous scenes instead of creating them over and over. So in this case here we say log scene equals new scene, and we give it my root, that's the parent here, and we say stage set scene with the log scene. We can give the stage a title, set title, log, probably good. And I don't think we need to call show again. So let's just try this one here. So whenever we call this method, my stage is going to get a different scene, and that's going to swap out the content of the stage. So it's gray. We can see that it's never being used. If you're using dark theme, it's probably a different color, but in my case, the light theme, it's gray. So let's go to log view, no, Uppercase view controller. From here, I want to be able to switch to the other one. So we say view handler, open Uppercase view. Nope, open log view. And that's going to switch to the other one. So I'm asking the view handler to open a different view. And it's then the view handler's responsibility to figure out what to do with this request. Do we need to open a new window, or do we need to swap out the content of the current window? And we're swapping out content, but maybe we wanted to open a new window, show some kind of pop-up in a new stage or whatever. Maybe you have a method in your view handler to say show error pop-up. We could do that instead of showing an error label here. Maybe we will do that at the end to do show pop-up instead. if I write to do /to do, you can see it becomes a blue one instead of just gray. So you can put to dos in, and you can see a to do list down here, and it gives you a list of all the to dos in the project. Quite handy. So I can swap to the login view, not login, but just log, and let's just. So I'm doing a lot of things here before testing whether it actually works, but let's just, there we go. Now I should be able to swap back again. Let's run it. I can go to the log. I can go back and forth. Okay, wonderful. Good stuff. Okay, I need a log view model. Log view model. This is going to hold an observable list of all the requests down here, all the strings, you know, everything that has been requested to make into Uppercase. We put that not in an array list, which we have down here, but into an observable list, because that's sort of like a property. So if I modify this list, something in the GUI can automatically be updated. So in the log view model, or in view models in general, we usually use observable list instead of your usual array list. So let's create that. Say private observable list of strings. Logs, and we cannot create a new observable list because that's going to give me an interface. So we need to use a factory similar to our factories. There is a FX collections factory, and here I can get an observable array list like this. So that will create a list for me, put everything together. I don't know why they have a factory for that instead of just being able to create our own observable array list, but that's probably a good reason. Okay, I need to have a method called getLogs, public void getLogs. Do I need it now? Well, when I open the log view controller, I want to initialize the view. So in the init method, we're going to request the view model to load the data from the text converter. So let's just create it here, void get logs, and it won't do anything. We'll just say log view model get logs, because I need to modify my model before I can get anything from that. So let's go back to the log view controller and say here we want to create, I'll create a table. I will create a table. I need to open it. And I need a table view. Let's see. Yeah, so this is going to hold all my logs. So just a line for everyone. And I believe I have found, if I remember correctly, then whenever I try to modify a table in Scene Builder, it's going to crash. So I'll go do that through the fxml files, because I just want one column. You can see there's just one column. I could have multiple columns, 0 and converting, and then, but this is just one string, so there's just one column here. It could have been a text area. I'm going to do a table. I want to remove that one column here, and we'll just say preferred with, we'll take this one from here. So when I open this again, we can see there's just the one column here. I could rename this, probably properties, text converted, or logs. Yeah, logs is probably good, like that. I need an ID for the table, table column actually, so that we can define what to put in here. Let's say log column. I don't remember if I need an ID for the table itself, so we'll start with this one here. Now I can reference the column and define what should be displayed in that column. You can see that it's yellow again, so quick fix that. Create column, so now I have it in here. The column is going to contain a string, so I can put that in. No. It needs 2 required arguments, so I'll give it 2 strings. If you have a list of objects instead of just strings, so maybe the object contains an integer and a string, then you need to say for each column that the column should take from that object and it should return a string or an integer. But in this case, my list, so basically the list contains strings, so that's what my list contains, and the column is supposed to display a string, so we put a string here. If my list contained a log entry, I would have logs here. We could do that. No, that's going to complicate things more than I want to show in this example. Okay, so in the view model we can get the logs. We need to actually call this method. So whenever we open the controller or this GUI, we say view model get the logs. I don't have a view model, so I need to put that association together. That means we need to update the view model factory. So this one should now get a log view model. I can assign that to a, no, I don't need it as a field variable. Okay, so we have a problem here because when I init this, you can click the problem here. It shows here I'm just giving it one thing. So on the view model factory, I need to be able to get log view model. That method doesn't exist yet, so let's create it. And in here, I need to create a, well, I need to return a new log view model, like that. Still doesn't know about the model, but that's okay for now. So my view model factory can create view models, also the log view model. In the view handler, whenever we open this new view, we give it a view model. In here we say view model dot get logs to load everything, and that should print something out. I think this is a good step, a good time to test my steps here again. So whenever I open the log view, the method that's here is called. Let's see what happens. That's being called. I get these warnings every time. That's a bit annoying, but that's because my JavaFX version is older than the Java version apparently. We can go back again. The logs are reloaded. Okay, so that seems to work just fine. Now we need to actually keep track of whatever has been requested in my model. So let's say model. I need an array list of strings, all my requests, logs. Well, it's called list down here, so let's just call it list. I need to import list from the Java util. I could have an array list if I wanted to. I just usually do the list. That's an interface. The implementation can be an array list, so this is just fine. Whenever we request something, we say list.add text, like that. And then I need to be able to add log. That's probably, what's the intention here? Do I want to add a log whenever we request something? That seems strange, because whenever we request something, we want that put in, and there's no method to actually get the logs. So I think there's an error here. This should be get logs and should return my list. There's a get log method. Get log size, not really used for anything. Okay, I need to update this at some point. So I want a method in here to say list of strings get logs, like that. Import class. Yep, util. We have a problem because in the model we now need to implement that method. Okay, return list. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Okay, so now my text converter is keeping track of everything that has been requested, and it can return that list to my log view model. So let's go to the log view model, and here, instead of printing that out, we want to say, well, it needs an instance of the model to actually get that. So let's go to the factory, view model factory. Here I need to, just like up here, right? I need to pass it an instance of the model, get text converter model. I need to create that constructor, and we want to assign it to a field variable, create variable, yep. And down here we say text converter model get logs. That's going to give me a list of all my logs, and in my logs, it's called logs, and I have this one, so let's just call it list instead. Now my observable list, I want to add all, doesn't matter which one I pick, it will find out. So I take my list of log entries from the model and I put that into my observable list, and then we need to use the observable list in the controller class, log view controller, to put into my table. That means I need a reference for the table probably. Okay, that would be the next step. Right, I need to go to my fxml file again so that I can create a table reference. My table view doesn't have an ID currently. I could just add that here actually. fx id equals log table, like that. We can see it's yellow. I create that table reference. My table contains strings, like that. Alright, so in my, well, I need to say table view, log table, log table. We want to set the items of this one to the observable array list from my view model, right? These logs, I want to put them into, why is it yellow? Oh, it can be made final. So I need a get method for the logs here. Public observable list type string get log list, return logs. Yep, so I can get access to that in the here view model get log list, like that. So now I'm taking the observable array list from my view model and putting it into the log table. So that means my view model is responsible for holding the data being shown in the GUI, and my GUI is responsible for showing the data being held in my view model. Follow the responsibilities of the MVVM structure. Good. Now I need to say what should this table column display. So we say log column, set cell value factory, new property value factory, and we say what do I do here? So in my case, I have a table, but maybe that doesn't make sense if I have more. Well, I only have one column. In that case, we should use a list view instead of a table view. The table view is better if I have multiple columns. That makes sense. So let me just modify that. That is inconvenient, but I would have to redo too much of the video to go back. So you get to see that sometimes we mess up. I want not a table view, I want a, so let's go here. I want that one gone and this one gone. And we say, we open this one, open. I forgot about the list view. We delete the table. Yeah, I want to delete, yes. And we say list view. And what's going on here? List view. Wonderful. So this is basically a table with one column, I guess, sort of. Yeah, wonderful. And I need to reference that, so we say list log view. Okay. And in the fxml file, I have a log view now. I create a field of that log view. Yeah, list view. It contains string. And instead of log table, we say log view, like that. That was easier. I have a different exercise, the task list, if you want to learn more about the table view, but we will keep it simple. Okay, I get the items. We load the items. I think it's time for a new test. Whenever I open the view, the controller is initialized. We ask the log view model to request whatever's down here and return it and update its data so the view is updated. And let's give it a go. Hello viewers, convert. Hello world, convert. Okay, so now there should be two requests in my model. If you go here, I can see hello viewers and hello world. If I go back again, hello again, convert, log, again, back and forth. Wonderful. Okay, that's working as intended. Multiple views are using the same data in my model here. So we could stop the video here. I just want to fix the part where we are not, so we don't reload this every time. That's going to create, well, require a few minor changes. So if the uppercase scene is not null, that means it has been loaded before. Uppercase scene, if it's null, then we want to load it. Okay, and this one goes at the end here. Okay, so if the uppercase scene has not been loaded before, then we want to load it. Otherwise, we want to just, reuse the same one. Okay, the initialize is probably okay in this one. We just need to initialize it once. Let's see. We just need to bind it together to the view model once. There's nothing here that can cause problems, but that means we need to also reuse the view model. Well, I only requested once, so that's okay. This should still work. Let's just see. The point is just we don't spend resources loading and constructing the view over and over. Hello world, convert. Hello viewers, almost, convert. We can go here and go back again. It's not actually clear that we are reusing the previous instance, but I can tell you that we are. So we need to do the same thing for the log view, and that is going to be requiring a few more changes. So if the log scene is null, we want to load it. Null, yeah. Yeah. We take this one outside again, down here. Log scene, nope, that was too much. There. Maybe this one should not be here, but we should instead show it up here. So we don't call this show every time. I mean, we are showing the stage once. If I hide it at some point, for whatever reason, I need to show it again. Okay. So this is the same thing, but okay, let's just check out the problem. I'm only initializing it once here, and that's going to cause a problem, I believe. So let's see. Hello viewers, convert. Hello world, convert. Okay, we go here, we see these two, viewers and world. Okay, so that's the first time it's initialized. Hello again, convert. If I press the log, we're going to see that the log scene has been loaded before, so we're just going to reuse that. But I don't see the hello again, because this is only, the data is initialized when we init here. We call the logs, and that's going to request the logs from the model. But the init is only called the first time. So what we can do is say, I need to re-init, right? And well, here we have different approaches. I know my colleague, instead of keeping track of the scenes, he will keep track of the controllers, and each controller will contain its own scene. And then down here he can ask the controller for the scene and add that. I don't know what I think about that solution, but it could work. We are just going to keep track of that log view controller. Right, so I need this one here. I don't want. Okay, so the log view controller is also initialized along with the scene first time. And then down here I actually want to reload. Let's call it reload, right? Because I want to reinitialize stuff. So let's create a method on the controller called reload. What should it do? Well, it should basically load everything. So I need a view model field variable, create field, yeah. And what happens when we load everything? Get logs. We're getting those, we put it in the list. So I'm most likely going to get a lot of duplicates in the list. Let's see what happens. Okay, so in the view handler, whenever we open the log view, we just want to reload the data. Or reset, I could call it reset or whatever. This one will get the logs, and that's going to get the logs from the model. I think that we're going to get duplicates now. Let's see. Hello viewers. Hello world. Okay. viewers world, hello again. And it basically tells, well, I haven't restarted the view model. I haven't gotten a new one. So when I open it, there are some data in the logs list, and then I'm also asking it to get the logs again. So we're getting the same thing twice plus the new. So what do? Well, we say logs clear. Now I empty it, and then I reload the data from the model. Hello viewers, hello world, log, that works. Hello again, convert, log, and we just get the correct data now. Okay, so I'm no longer reloading the scene every time. I'm not loading the file. That's just done once, and then I just store it in a field variable so I can reuse that log scene, and the controller also, so I can reload the controller. So that means I'm keeping track of scenes and controllers, and that's why my colleague would put the scene into the controller, or at least the root into the controller, to retrieve it from there. So that's also an alternative solution. Okay, I think that's it. We have everything in place. We have two views we can switch between. They're using the same model, so that when one interacts with the model, the other can use the same data. And I'm going to say thank you for watching, sticking with me throughout this video. Now when I press the stop button, I hope I don't come up with something new that I need to add to this one, something I forgot. But for now at least, goodbye, thank you for watching.